Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking time from your busy day to join us. I'm Alyssa Joseph Enders, Senior Account Director at Marketing General. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Challenges and Hopes, Insights from the Membership Marketing Benchmarking Report. It's great to have so many of you here with us today. We've had more than 650 people register for this webinar, and we have many clients, friends, and newcomers to our MGI family, so welcome everyone. Many of you have participated in the Membership Marketing Benchmarking Survey, and also many have downloaded the report and read it. Today, we'll hear from Tony Russell, MGI Senior Vice President. Tony directs our annual Membership Marketing Benchmarking Survey and the writing and production of the report. Today, Tony will share key takeaways and insights from this year's report and how you can apply its findings to improve your association's membership results. A couple things before I turn this over to Tony. First, I assume most of you are familiar with Zoom, in fact, experts, but do want to point out a couple of the icons at the bottom of your screen. There's a question answer one. Use that for sending us questions throughout the webinar. Tony will be answering questions at a couple of different points throughout the webinar. There's also a chat button, and please use that if you have technical questions. Now I'd like to introduce Tony. Many of you know him or have heard of him since he's quite well known in the membership marketing world. Tony is a top membership marketing expert. He has more than 30 years of association marketing experience. Over this time, Tony has helped hundreds of professional and trade associations grow their membership. He's a frequent writer and speaker on marketing topics. He's the past chair of the ASAE Membership Professionals Community. He's a contributing author to 2 books. One is called Membership Marketing. The other one has a long title, Membership Essentials, Recruitment, Retention, Roles, Responsibilities, and Resources. Great alliteration, great title. Speaking of great titles, he has his own book coming out soon called Membership Recruitment, How to Grow Recurring Revenue, Reach New Markets, and Advance Your Mission. Stay tuned for updates on that. And now, Tony.
Hey, Alyssa, thanks so much for the introduction. And thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. And as Alyssa mentioned, we'll pause several times during the presentation today, during the webinar, to give you a chance to ask some questions and get some clarifications. You know, the benchmarking research that we do and the economic outlook research we do are actually some of the most enjoyable projects that I'm involved in each year here at Marketing General. It's really a chance for me and for all of us to really look under the hood of associations and what they're doing in membership. So it's a great experience and something that I think you're going to find some very helpful takeaways from today. So let's dive into it. But first, I just want to highlight for those of you who, whoops, there we go. For those of you who may not know about Marketing General or want some background about Marketing General, we're a 40-year-old firm. All of our work is exclusively with professional and trade associations. And we try to bring a full set of capabilities to help associations with their marketing. We do digital marketing, data analytics, email, copywriting, graphic design. But here's the key thing that in our philosophy and our goal, we're strong believers that marketing is a key and important driver to help associations accomplish their mission. So that's our philosophy, using these tools to help associations accomplish their mission. So with that, let's dive into our material for today. Let me start out with just background about the Membership Marketing Benchmarking Report. You know, for years, I'd meet with associations and they'd say, I understand what's going on with my organization, but what's actually taking place with other groups out there? And I would, to the best of my ability, say, okay, in this situation, I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing this with this other group. Finally, it dawned on me that it would be helpful for organizations if we were to go out and compile data on what is going on in membership marketing. How are people functioning in membership marketing? So 12 years ago, we launched the Membership Marketing Benchmarking Report. Each year, we have 800, 900, 1,000 associations giving us and sharing with us their data. They tell us what they're doing for recruitment, what they're doing to engage members, how they're renewing members. And they also tell us what the outcomes are. Is their renewal rate going up or down? What is their renewal rate? Is their new member count going up or down? Or their total membership going up or down? So it's fascinating to be able to gather all this information each year. Here's the thing that I think really sets apart our benchmarking data and really provides some usefulness though. Because what we do with all this data is we take the practices and we take the outcomes, and what we do is we cross-tabulate that to try to understand what are the best practices, what's working for associations, what's not working for associations. So that's our goal. That's what we try to do, and that's the outcome. So we're going to share with you best practices from this data. One important thing I want to highlight, though, that does usually come up, and that is we do find that when reporting a best practice, something that works or doesn't work, we're talking about correlations. We're not talking about causation. So a little bit later in the presentation today, we're going to talk about how how annual credit card renewals we tend to see higher renewal rates for organizations that offer that compared to those that don't. So what we're finding then is that through that, we see a correlation that is something to look into if you're not doing it, that might be beneficial in helping you to improve your renewals. We're not saying it's a causation though, because by doing that alone is probably not going to totally alter your renewal process. In addition to our membership marketing benchmarking data, and that was data gathered in January and February of this year, we went back out 6 months into the current recession and pandemic to do a temperature check for associations on what is happening 6 months into these challenges. And so we had about 500 associations give us their feedback, give us their data from what's the current challenges are, what's currently happening with them. And we're going to share a lot of that data today too, so you get a handle on a real-time handle on what's going on for associations and their membership and overall for the association. I do want to step back before we dive into this though, and give you some background on the framework for our research. So if you open the benchmarking report, what you'll see is a separate section on recruitment. You'll see a separate section on engagement, sections on renewal and reinstatement. That is driven by what we call the membership life cycle. And it's a system we put in place a number of years ago to really diagnose and understand the opportunities and the challenges that associations are facing with membership. It's been a really helpful diagnostic tool because groups will come to us and say, hey, my membership's going down, what do I do? Or I want to grow my membership, what do I do? What it does is it breaks out that relationship of a member in stages so we can see where's the leverage, where's the leak. Let me walk you through this very quickly because it does form the framework for our research. The first stage of any membership relationship is awareness. And when we look at awareness, we look at two components. One component is share of mind. In order for someone to join, they need to know that you exist. They need to know that you have benefits and value that they can take part of. The second part of awareness, though, is what I call share of database. It's really important that you know who those prospects are, who those companies are, who those professionals are, who those potential members are. And that's mutual awareness, what we call that. And that's the starting point in any membership relationship. The second part is recruitment. You know, marketers talk about two types of products that they can sell. One is a push product, one is a pull product. A push product is something like the new 5G phones that are coming out. People line up at the store or as soon as they're available, go online and purchase that. They don't need a lot of advertising. They don't need to be convinced to buy it. Those people jump on the opportunity. The hot Christmas toy doesn't have to have a lot of sales. People find that somehow and buy it for their kids. Membership, on the other hand, is a push product. It's sold, not sought. Very few of you probably woke up this morning and said, hey, I need to find an association to join. And even before the pandemic, very few of you probably had a line of people outside your office when you came in the morning saying, hey, I'm looking to join your association. So recruitment is a critical piece of that life cycle. It's a push. It's people need to be invited. The third stage of that life cycle is engagement. The most likely people not to continue with your association once they join are those first-year members. So having an onboarding system, a method to get them engaged is really important. But engagement doesn't start just with that new member coming on board. Throughout the process, it's important to highlight the relevance, highlight how the members can use the products and services you're offering in the membership. And so engagement's an ongoing program. Next comes renewal. You know, renewal is really interesting because we're in a political campaign right now, and a lot of associations need to think more in terms of a political campaign, perhaps, in trying to get people to continue with them than simply a one-off transaction. You know, when we do surveys of membership groups, one of the things we find is the number one reason many associations find that their members lapse is the members come back and say, I forgot to renew. And so having multiple touches and following up with members for renewal is really important. And finally, the last stage in this life cycle, this framework that we use for our research and to understand the challenges and opportunities for associations is reinstatement. In every relationship, at some point, there's going to be a bump in the road. And so reinstatement is the opportunity to understand what those challenges are, what those issues are, and go back to those former members and try to get them to come back on board. So that's the framework that our research is in today. And we'll highlight a number of these issues and some takeaways in each of these areas that you can use for your association from what we've learned from the research. The theme of today's webinar is the challenge and the hope. Right now, just virtually every organization and certainly every association is going through challenges. There's some major challenges out there that we're all dealing with. And so I want to highlight what those are and what we're seeing. But at the same time, we're seeing areas of hope. We're seeing points of light where associations either are thriving or having the opportunity to thrive in the future. So that's the theme for today. We're going to look at understanding the challenges and trying to then focus on the hope, the opportunities, the points of light. Let me start with this. The key question that probably many of us are asking and that I'm hearing is, what will the outcome be for my membership this year? What should I expect? I'm seeing lots of different information. I'm hearing different things from members. What should we be looking for this year? And there's a couple ways we take a look at this. One is going back historically and seeing how has membership and membership associations responded to past challenges and past disturbances. So I did a little bit of historic digging and went back to our benchmarking reports in the past, and we found some interesting information. On the y-axis here, you see the years of our research that we did. Across the top, you see organizations that reported their membership had increased in the previous year, had decreased in the previous year, or remained the same. And unfortunately, you also see that there's some organizations that didn't know if their membership increased or decreased, but we're not going to look at that. Here's what we found. Going back to the Great Recession in 2009, we found in 2010, which looked back at those outcomes, nearly half of associations saw that their membership declined. That was the worst year we've seen in all of our data tracking. Associations had a very challenging time with membership coming out of the Great Recession. There were significant, half of associations, as I mentioned, saw a decline. So there is an expectation, there's a real challenge out there for associations in maintaining and even growing their membership. The other thing we did just recently, and this is our 6-month data from our Outlook survey, we went out and said 6 months into this recession, 6 months into this pandemic, what are your expectations of what's going to happen with your membership by the end of the year? Where are you now? What are you seeing happening? And again, some discouraging information, not quite as bad as the Great Recession, but 39% of the respondents of these 500 associations said that they're anticipating and they're seeing their membership declining right now. So again, a very real challenge. Here's an interesting thing though. 23%, almost a quarter, came back and said, we are expecting our membership to increase. We're seeing increases in membership. And here's the 4 things that I'm seeing characterize those groups that are seeing increase in their membership. And I think it's a takeaway that we all may want to learn from. Number 1 is organizations that are speaking to the current situation, the recession, COVID-19, with critical information, are seeing a bounce in their membership. We've seen some groups double the new member input this year because they're speaking to members and non-members, providing critical information. One group I'm familiar with has had over 100,000 registrations for webinars that talk about how to protect yourself, how to help your patients, how to deal with this crisis. So number one, critical information is a really important, valuable asset that groups are using to grow their membership. Number two is community. We're seeing a social distancing. We're seeing people separated from each other. There's a desire to interact, a desire to have community. And one study outside of our work that I've seen that's very telling is that for private social networks, some of those groups are seeing 50% increase in the level of interaction on their private social networks, meeting that community need. The third area that we're seeing is very, very important during this difficult, challenging time is providing networking services. And I think that's going to become even more important as we start to emerge from this situation. Networking is critical because a couple things. One of the things that I've heard from membership directors is members like to hire members. So having that network, being able to connect with others in the field if you're looking for a job is really important. Another organization shared with me this information I thought was fascinating. They had a hiring manager tell them that when they open a position up and they get resumes in, that hiring manager basically divides the stack two ways. One is, are the respondents members of the organization and are they certified by the organization? Those people go in the interview stack. The ones that aren't go in the non-interview stack. So again, providing that networking to members is critical. And the fourth thing that I think is leading to helping some groups really increase or stabilize their membership is advocacy. Speaking for the profession, speaking for the industry, joining their voice, the member's voice to make a difference. So there is hope in our current situation. And there are organizations, even in the challenging times, as late as August and September, when we had this additional research in, that are seeing growth. And the decline, the decreasing appears to be somewhat less than we saw in the Great Recession. One other historic note that I think lends some hope to the future is, again, looking back at our data over the last number of years. We asked organizations, year over year, has your new membership count increased? Have you been able to gain more members than the previous year? And again, coming out of the Great Recession, we see in the years following some of the highest new member input increases that we've ever seen. 57%, 60%, 63% of organizations are saying, I've added new members. I've grown my new member counts this year. And that's very encouraging. I think there will be a substantial bump coming out of the recession. Here's a couple reasons why. Number one is, and this is something that would be actionable right now for many associations. One of the things we saw in March, April, and even in May was what I call panic lapsing. So just like the stock market had panic selling in those months, a lot of membership organizations saw renewals drop off with panic lapsing. Members saying, I got to hold on to my money. I don't want to spend it right now. Companies saying, I need to hoard my cash. I'm not going to renew. That's an issue that people left not for value issues. They left for short-term financial issues. So one thing to keep in mind as this year closes out, there may be a great opportunity for associations to go back to those panic lapsers and try to get them to come back. Because again, it wasn't a value issue, it was a holding on to cash issue. And so whether that's through email or whether it's through phone calls, there might be some real opportunities to reach out to those members right now and bring them back and get membership growing again. But on the flip side, longer term, I think it's time to start preparing for 2021 to lay out a plan. How are we going to recruit new members? I think there's going to be a sense in prospective members of wanting community, of knowing that they need to network, of knowing that they need to increase their skills, get certified, prepare for new jobs. So 2 takeaways: think about reinstatement right away, and also start planning now for a strong 2021 of gaining and adding members. With that, Alyssa, I'm going to pause for a minute and just see if there's questions that have come in so far, and then we'll move on to some of the key insights coming out of our research.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. We've had a couple of questions come in, and I would encourage others to type right now so we can answer those questions. First question, I love the point about awareness. The prospects being aware is not enough. We have to be aware of them. How do we do this?
That's a great question. You know, one of the things that's changed dramatically over the last number of years is the availability of data. Believe it or not, there's databases out there that know everything about you, and they know everything about your members. And so one of the things that you may want to consider doing is going out and leasing or buying data of the companies in your industry or of the professionals in your industry, and using that data to reach out to potential members. So that's certainly one thing you can do. Another thing that we're seeing really good success with that I'll touch on a little bit later is content marketing. So going out and offering articles, key pieces of data that people will want, and it's trading content for contact, asking them to give you their contact information and opt in for further communication in order to receive data. And then you can obviously follow up with those people and offer help.
Okay, here's another one, back to the panic lapsers. Will dues reductions help with bringing them back?
We have a smart group of people on this webinar. One of the things we're going to look at a little bit later is the opportunity possibly for discounts to ask people to come back. We'll talk about that more in depth, but really what a discount at this point can do is really demonstrate empathy, the understanding that members are financially stressed, they're worried, cost is an issue. And I do think that special offers and especially discounts might be particularly effective in the world right now with lapsed members.
Another question about the panic lapse members. Have you seen a greater degree of them with professional associations or trade associations, or no distinction between the two different types that's evident?
It's a great question. I haven't noted a difference, but what I have noted is going back to lapsed people, both companies and individuals. One of the things that's worked very well, for instance, is phone calls. Almost everybody has their phone forwarded. So even for a president of a company, you may be able to get through to them on a phone call when prior to the pandemic, there's no way you could reach them. There'd be a gatekeeper keeping you from that. So these are great questions. We'll have some more in a little bit. I do want to move forward with some specific insights that I tried to frame this as actionable things that people can take away and use coming from our data. There's three really key findings and three key areas of insights that I want to really focus on for the rest of our time together today. One is the importance of defining and presenting value to your prospects and to your members. And we have some very interesting data on that. The second is the critical area of innovating your products and services. And the final area that we see some radical changes in the area of producing effective marketing, and things have changed dramatically there. So let's start out first by talking about value. And as we all know, value is the foundation for our membership and for getting and keeping members. But here's some fascinating data that actually is a little bit disappointing to me. So one of the questions we asked in our benchmarking research was, how compelling is your value proposition to your members? I found this discouraging because basically only 48% of respondents said, hey, I have very compelling or even compelling value that I offer to my members. Interestingly, and not surprisingly, the groups that were in those two categories, the very, very compelling or compelling, are much, much more likely to see their membership growing. So we did see a correlation between the perspective of value being offered and the likelihood of growth. Disappointing, but reality is it does help to have really strong value. I have a caveat on this data though, with another data point from our research that I think is really interesting. So one of the questions we ask is, what's your renewal rate? How well are you maintaining and keeping members? And I think the interesting thing here is this is almost a contradiction with that value question, because across the board, trade, professional, combination associations, the median renewal rate reported was 84%. Trade associations were higher, individual membership associations were lower, but the median was 84%. Here's the contradiction that I see. Members are finding value. Otherwise, they wouldn't write that check year after year at an 84% rate. The challenge is that I think sometimes associations are overly critical of themselves, or they're not fully understanding what the value that members are finding in the products, services, networking that they're providing. The solution to this, in my mind, and a key thing to keep in mind and a key takeaway is, if you're seeing a decent renewal rate and yet you're concerned that your membership, that you're not providing compelling value, it's time to step back and do some research. It's time to ask members, what is important? What is the value proposition that you believe you're receiving from us? How well are we delivering on those things? To really understand and get a handle on what's the value they're finding, because members don't write checks if they don't find value. And yet associations are concerned that maybe they're not providing the value that they should be and that's needed. So takeaway, if your renewal rate's strong and you're confused about why people are renewing and don't have a high regard for your value proposition, step back, take some time for research, understand that. Here's what we find in our research, in our benchmarking of why the top reasons why associations say members join. And it's not surprising. It's networking, it's continuing education, it's accessing specialized resources. These are the features. These are the features that we talk about. The importance and what research can help us to do is translate those features into benefits, and then translate those benefits into the specific value that we want to deliver to members. So an example might be a career center. A benefit that you offer, or a feature you offer, is a career center, career advice, resume help, connecting people to jobs. The benefit, if you offer that, is that it's a trusted source, industry specific, profession specific, that really enables people to find the appropriate job. The value is you're helping members advance their career, you're helping members find their dream position, and you're in the unique position to allow that to happen and to do that. So again, if you're struggling with that value proposition, spend some time dialoguing with your members through research to really get a handle on what that value is. Here's something interesting, because once you've found that value, once you understand it, it's really important to communicate that. And we talked about having an engagement program. Once someone joins and as you're continuing with membership, engaging them and trying to get them to continue with you. Here's an interesting thing. Groups that said they have an established engagement program, 78% of them said they were seeing an increase in their retention rate, increase in their renewal rate. So as associations have a plan to go out and demonstrate relevance, to encourage usage of benefits, we see a substantial, or a correlation with a move forward in renewals. Engagement programs are interesting because some organizations I've found wait till it's renewal time and they write a long letter and say to the member, here's all the things we've given you, here's all the things we've done this past year. I think that's a mistake. I think it's sort of akin to going to a restaurant and having a server give you lousy service the whole time. Wrong orders, not attentive, not helpful. And they give you the invoice, they give you the receipt or the bill at the end, and they put a smiley face on it and say, hope you had a great time. It's a little bit too late at that point to turn things around. So engagement is really going through the process throughout the membership year, communicating, here's what we're giving you, here's some relevant information we think would be of help to you, encouraging and providing wisdom on how to access and use the benefits that are available. There's hope though in this. There's hope obviously for groups that do those, have those engagement programs. They're seeing increases in renewals. But as we went back recently and asked associations, how are you doing with engagement? What are you seeing relative to engagement during this pandemic, during this recession? There's some really positive outcomes from this. Excuse me. Fully 69% of respondents said, hey, we are seeing increased engagement from our members, significant or at least slight increases in engagement from our members. Members have a hunger and a need for what you're providing. They're reaching out to associations, they're asking for help, they're engaging. And that's really the hope and, again, a point of light during this difficult time. Associations are finding that their members are indeed getting help, seeking help, and I think they're effectively providing that help. So with that, here's what I want to do. I'd like to do a poll, and I want to ask each of you to think through and see if we've seen a change from our previous question, when we found that there was only about 48% of associations saying that they had very compelling or compelling value proposition. I'm wondering if this pandemic and if the challenges that your members are facing has changed your perception of the value you're providing. And are we seeing that members are finding, and you're finding, more compelling value that you're delivering to them? So let me launch this poll now. And I hope everything works right. Go ahead and just note, where are you now compared to where you were before and what the associations responded before? How is the value that you're delivering? Is it less compelling? Is it compelling? Is it very compelling? How are you able to serve members during this really challenging time? And I'll leave this open for a couple seconds so that you can all put your votes in. Well, I'm seeing some positive numbers here. All right, I'll give you another 30 seconds, and then we'll read out this. Okay, excellent. It looks like we have fully done this, so I'm actually going to end the poll a couple seconds early. And here's the really good news. We're up to, if I can do the fast math, 49 plus 10 is 59% are saying they have a very compelling or compelling value proposition. And clearly some of us are still struggling. 34% say it's somewhat compelling. 7% are saying it's not very compelling. Fortunately, with this advanced audience, we have no one saying it's not at all compelling. So again, there's challenges. We're trying to meet these challenges, but we're seeing, it looks like, a positive movement in the value we're delivering to our members. All right, so there's the final results. 13%, 46%, 35%, 7%, and 0%. So thank you very much for your feedback on that. That's great. All right. Let's close that out. So I'd like to look at the second area of key insight now that we're seeing in our data. And let me see if I can advance the slide here. The second area that we're seeing some really fascinating information in and seeing some real movement in is the area of innovation for associations. And so let me share with you again a challenge, but I think there's also some very encouraging news related to innovation. So one of the things we asked participants this year was, does your organization have a process in place for innovation and new ideas? Again, there's some challenges here, some disappointment here, because about only 18% of associations said, hey, yeah, we actually have an active innovation program in place. We did see there's a clear correlation, clear correspondence of groups that had an innovation plan in place with the likelihood again to see membership growth. So innovation appears to be a driver for growth again, and that's not surprising. And that's something to keep in mind. And a key takeaway that putting innovation in place and really proactively looking at how to innovate can really be an important step for associations. This is my favorite chart because I want to highlight that there still is a lot of innovation taking place in associations, even if people don't have an active plan to do it. In our benchmarking research, this is my favorite table. What we ask people is, what products and services that you're offering do you see an increase in participation from your members, an increase in engagement? You know, I go back with association marketing going a long way back, and historically the three key areas of engagement that associations provided were insurance, were volunteerism, and were selling books. You know, it's interesting. I think someone from IEEE has signed up for the this webinar. In 1985, I think it was, I bought insurance with IEEE because I was traveling overseas. I still am a member. I still have insurance with IEEE. So insurance was a driver for getting the people to join. Certainly buying books and getting directories, certainly volunteering with that, you know, monthly chapter meeting that people would have dinner together and things. What we've seen though is the areas of participation have radically changed over the years. And I think this does speak to the innovation that many associations have put in place. The number one area where we're seeing growth in participation is mobile app usage. That 65% of the associations responded who offer a mobile app said they're seeing that usage increase. Public social networks, attendance at webinars has seen 53% growth. Private social networks, young professional groups. So there's areas that didn't even exist years ago that now are seeing some of the highest levels of participation and engagement. I think it's a really encouraging sign that things are changing. Organizations are finding ways to introduce new ways to interact, to engage. We're seeing obviously some dramatic change there, and that's an encouraging area of engagement. Here's another area that that came out of our research this year that I find fascinating as far as innovation goes. One of the things we found is that a number of organizations are saying they're either investigating or they've actually changed their membership model. The two that have come through most prominently are moving to a tiered membership structure and also moving to a combination membership structure. So a tiered structure basically is moving from a one-size-fits-all membership to offering a gold, silver, bronze membership with different benefits, different levels of service, different pricing. So you have an entry-level membership, perhaps at that bronze membership level. So people who are on a budget, watching their dollars, just want a sample membership. It's a way for them to be introduced, start interacting with the association, start benefiting from the value of the association offers. Gold is the high level, it's a premium membership. And what we find is that a lot of people who are in the profession, they want everything you have. They don't want a one-off, buy this, buy that. They just want it all delivered to them. You know, there's always somebody who wants the Mercedes, wants the Cadillac, wants the BMW, and there's always someone who wants the Corolla car. So having that tiered structure can be a real benefit. We do find that that gold level, those members have the highest renewal rates. Those members also are the biggest buyers of additional products and services. So it's a way of segmenting your membership to understand different needs and different opportunities. Here's the other area that we've seen very, very strong movement towards, and I think it's a fascinating change. So when we first did our research, we found that about 13% of associations said they had a combination membership, meaning they offered both individual membership, but they also offered an organizational membership. Think of a group like ASAE, which is a group we work with and help with this membership process. You can join ASAE as an individual, but you can also sign up your entire association and have all your staff receive benefits and information from ASAE. It's been a huge benefit to them. They've seen dramatic growth in their membership by moving to offering that organizational option. It's helped them interact with many, many more association professionals because they're now in their database as part of that combination membership. So those are two innovations that we're seeing growing and people moving towards those at a fairly rapid pace. I mean, we've doubled from the beginning of our research of organizations that show themselves as combination associations. Key takeaway is perhaps one of those methods, one of those new membership models might be something for you to look at and consider during this challenging time. Another area that has been seen, again, substantial growth is in payment options. We've seen a lot more organizations moving to automatic annual credit card renewals or installment monthly or quarterly billing. That's been a growing area, and it's been particularly beneficial during this this challenging time. What's happened with a lot of associations is that when they send out renewal notices and mail them, no one's in the office to get it. So those people are not renewing. And again, that's a challenge where we want to try to reinstate those people through other channels. But with organizations that we've seen that have automatic annual credit card or have installment renewal options on the credit card, those organizations have had a much more stable renewal experience over the last number of months because they don't need to mail someone, they don't need to email someone and ask them to renew. So it's a big opportunity, I think, moving forward as, and we're seeing growth in that area. So I think it's something to consider. Overall, organizations that we work with that have that automatic credit card or installment, for members who participate in that, we see about a 10-point higher retention rate, a 10-point higher renewal rate with groups that are offering that. So something to consider, something to look into if you're not doing it. So what is the point of light related to innovation coming out of our research? What have we discovered in just the last few weeks that I think is an important thing to think about, an important opportunity related to membership? Here it is. In 2019, we asked organizations in our economic outlook research, what were the obstacles to innovation for your organization? Again, 6 months into the pandemic, we went out again with that survey and asked again that same question. What are the obstacles? What are the barriers to innovation for your organization? And the good news is that we've seen a dramatic drop-off in the level of obstacles that associations are experiencing to bring about innovation. We've gone from 31% of organizations said institutional resistance to risk was holding them back. That dropped to 22%. A slow pace of board and senior executive decisions went from 30% down to 19%. Lack of agreement with board members dropped from 25% to 13%. Some pretty substantial changes. And I think the message here is don't waste these hard times. Take advantage of them. The obstacles to innovation, the obstacles to change are diminishing. There's a need to innovate. There's a need to change. And it looks like those things that are holding people back from those obstacles are diminishing and are less of a challenge perhaps now than they were before. So use the hard times you're going through to make change, to innovate, and to move things forward. With that, Alyssa, I'm going to pause again and just see if there's questions related to value, questions related to innovation that I can address from some of the folks here who have been hanging in there with us on these slides.
Yeah, thanks everyone for your questions. There's a huge number of questions actually. I'm just going to pick a couple, and Tony still has a couple more Q&A parts of this presentation. So we'll unfortunately have to defer a lot of these, but we'll also say you can always follow up after the webinar with questions specifically. Let's see. Value proposition, a couple of questions. One is in terms of sharing information with non-members, the degree to which this helps or hurts recruitment when associations choose, for instance, to offer trusted information for free to non-members, to the market. Maybe this is too open and it kind of dilutes the value proposition. What's the value proposition of joining, the value of joining if there's all this free content and trusted information out there?
Yeah, that's the yin and the yang of how open, how closed are you on information. My recommendation would be that there be some limits on it. I will say that, as I mentioned earlier, groups that have done webinars that specifically address the challenges members are facing. How do I reopen my manufacturing plant? As a human resource person, how do I furlough people? How do I lay people off? As a healthcare worker, how do I keep my members safe? I think those are really important things through webinars, through white papers, through different mechanisms to get out there. And what we find is that non-members who accept those and take advantage of that resources then become prospects, and many of them, seeing what you're doing, join. But I wouldn't open up everything to everyone. I think that would be a mistake, and it does hurt your value proposition. One other question, Alyssa, and then we're going to move on.
Okay, let's see. Oh, we've got so many.
And we'll stay. One of the things is that we'll close out at a little bit later, and then I'm happy to stay on and address some of the questions, but let the rest of the folks go so they can get back to their busy schedules.
Yeah, absolutely. Membership models, a couple of questions about tiered structure, concerns about there being so many tiers that potential members get overwhelmed with the presented options, and one more related, another question on tiered models, how to forecast or project what would happen to dues revenue so that they can talk to the board.
Yeah, those are great questions. Forecasting, you can do this incrementally. I would always, if I'm going to do a tiered structure, start out with adding a top tier, not a bottom tier, so that anyone who moves up to it, you're going to have additional revenue coming in from your base membership. And in some cases, I wouldn't offer that bottom tier to existing members. If you create a bottom tier, I'd continue people to renew them at the middle tier, where you started, and offering that upgrade. And the second question, I'm sorry, the first part of that question was, Alyssa, was?
How many tiers might it be overwhelming to prospective members?
Yeah, I like a 3-tiered structure. I think if you have a restaurant menu with 100 different options of wine to choose from, it's going to be very, very confusing. So I like a 3-tiered structure. And again, the thought here is you're letting people define their membership not by who they are, but for what they want. And so I think that 3 tiers is an optimal mechanism that I've seen. Let's dive into a couple other things here. And again, we'll stay on for additional questions if people want that at the end. So the third area where we've seen some dramatic changes and has some, I think, really helpful data is an area of marketing. And here's, as I mentioned, especially for membership recruitment is a push product. It requires marketing. So if you do everything right in understanding and creating value, if you innovate creatively and create wonderful new products, great new services, and you forget marketing, it's not going to work. That push is required. I think it's sort of akin to someone who decides they want to have a dinner party, and they spend time planning the menu, they spend time cooking, they have set the table, they have everything all set, wonderful meals prepared, and then they realize they forgot to invite the guests. So it's really important to have that marketing tool there to communicate that value, to communicate that innovation. The old movie line that if you build it, they will come does not work in membership marketing. You have to have, it does not work for membership, you have to have marketing. So let me lay out a couple of things that we find from our data related to marketing that I think jump out at us and are things, again, that may be action items. And someone asked about this before. One of the things we ask is, what are the offers that are most effective in bringing in new members? And clearly conference, convention discounts, they're always the top ones, and they're very effective. But here's some other points to make. One is that we see a really strong correlation between people that offer dues discounts for first-year members and groups that are seeing higher new member input. A dues discount does work. And I realize it's very controversial. I always get pushback on this. People say, well, maybe they won't renew. And there will be maybe somewhat lower renewal rate of people who are incentivized to join, that people just find you. But here's the thing. Your membership is available 24/7. Anyone can go to your website anytime and join. So it's important if you want to proactively reach out to people, to have some reason to do it now, to have some kind of incentive. And we do find that discounts are that strong incentive that help people to come to the point of membership. You know, if you haven't used it, now may be a time to test it and to innovate. Going out, as we mentioned before, with an empathetic message that it is difficult economic times, the association's responding to the needs that exist, and we want to provide a discount to allow you to come into membership might be something to consider and to look at. You know, the other thing that we see that can be very effective is monthly or quarterly installment options. The world is moving to a monthly budgeting process. If we said to you, if you were told you had to buy your cell phone and pay for a year in advance for the service, a lot fewer of us would have cell phones, mobile phones. But the fact that it's broken out over 12 months makes it affordable. So think through, are there special offers that you want to look at right now to ask people to come back? And again, for your 2021 plans, to encourage people to join. Here's another area that we've seen dramatic growth in. And this is a shockingly fast growth. You know, a number of years ago, these numbers would have been 0. We're seeing a very big increase in people using paid digital advertising to help recruit members, to help renew members, to help sell products and services, to help engage members. You know, we're seeing 46% of people are now using paid digital advertising for Facebook. Now, I want to give one caveat here, because when you're doing paid advertising on any of these platforms, it's not just you throw an ad up there and pray that it works. They need to be optimized. There's so many bells and whistles, selects, optimizations that you can do, tests you can do. So it's not just throwing an ad up, it's really optimizing it. You know, people who are successful with digital marketing are like day traders. They're staring at the screen all day long, fixing their search engine terms, adjusting their ads, testing ads. So it's a hugely growing opportunity, but if you've done it and it hasn't worked, or it's not working as well as you thought, it's maybe because you're not optimizing it in the way that it could be optimized to really see results. We noticed that 31% are using retargeting, and again, that's seeing a very, very significant growth. You know, when we do retargeting, and I think we're doing it for virtually every client we work with right now, it's the highest ROI activity of anything we do. Retargeting works really, really effectively. Let me give you an example of why it's so effective. Let's talk about a conference, for instance. If you're promoting a conference and you get someone to come to your website through a mailing, through an email, through whatever, they're not going to sign up for that conference right away. They're going to see, okay, if it's a in-person conference, can I get airfare? Can I get approval? Can I get a time from the office? Even if it's virtual, they still need to get reimbursed. They need to see if they have time for doing it. Retargeting stays in front of them and encourages them to come back and sign up again, so they don't forget that there's an opportunity there. Same thing with membership. People don't join the first time they hit your website. They want to think about it. They may need to get approval. So retargeting is a very powerful tool. Here's another area that I think is important, and particularly important in our challenging times. Traditionally, we have seen year in, year out, people increasing their spend for membership marketing. And there is a correlation between increased spending and better results. People who spend more money marketing and use that marketing dollar wisely see growth in their membership. We're going to be in a very, very difficult time budget-wise for many associations going forward. And I want to speak to membership people specifically and really encourage you that during the budgeting process, during this challenging time, that you really work to defend your membership marketing budget. And I have 4 really important reasons that I hope that you can use as you go to boards, as you go to your staff, to really emphasize why the budget needs to be maintained and perhaps even increased during this difficult time. As I mentioned, there's great opportunity now for reinstatement. 2021, we're seeing a rebound in membership, and I think that's rebound is going to be driven by new members or members coming back. But there's 4 reasons why membership and funding membership is so important. Number 1 is members provide lifetime value. They there's a continuity of membership of dollars. So when you mentioned the median renewal rate of 84%, that means that a member is going to stay with you for 6 years. If they pay $600, they pay $100 in dues, that means you're going to have a $600 income stream coming to your organization. So that's a huge opportunity. You're buying an annuity value for members by bringing them in. You know, I've heard some organizations say that, well, maybe we shouldn't focus on membership. Maybe we should focus on product sales. Here's the challenge with that. In data analytics that we've done, we find that typically the typical renewal rate of a customer, someone who buys something 1 year, they're not as a non-member, and comes back the next year and buys something else, is about 7%. So that means 93%, you have a 93% lapse rate in customers against an 80% renewal rate for members. So that lifetime value is really critical. There's also customer value. Members are your best buyers. In any analysis we do, members are bigger buyers than our non-members. They spend more money. There's also stability coming from membership dues. You know, if you had a conference in March, April, May, June, July that was canceled, that's a huge income hit. For membership, they pay up front. So you know the income stream that's coming in, you know what's available. So people who renewed in January and February, they're still members now, and you have that income in hand. And finally, a critical piece here is mission value. You know, members are the foundation of your mission. They volunteer, they create your content, they generate your networking, they support your advocacy. So as you go forward and as people are looking to cut your membership marketing budget, I think these are some key reasons why you really want to defend your budget and really encourage your organization to fund membership and keep those things flowing. Take a couple questions now, Alyssa, but then we're going to close out. And then, like I said, I will stay on past the closing of this official webinar to allow people to and try to dialogue on some additional questions.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Tony. Couple questions now, and then we'll just conclude so we can let people go. And again, anybody who wants to stay on, please do. Okay, this one, talking about offers and such. The dues discounts work very well. This question is actually about a free offer. The person would like to know, we're about to offer a free 90-day introductory membership at no cost. During those 90 days, we'll engage members to convert as many as possible into dues-paying members. So what are your thoughts about that? Do you know associations that have used this strategy successfully, and what are some keys to success there? So,
well, it's a great idea. You know, free trials can be very effective. I especially like free trials for trade associations. I don't know if the respondent is a trade association, because trade associations is a collaborative consensus join instead of just a single individual. As long as they can be effective, as long as you have very, very tight follow-up. One of the things I recommend is what I call no obligation membership. So basically you're saying, we're going to give you 3 months of membership and you're going to agree to receive an invoice from us. If you want to join, just pay the invoice. If you don't want the membership, write cancel on the invoice. So getting that right to invoice is a really critical part in making these free trials, no obligation memberships work.
Thanks, Tony. I see it's actually 12:59. So just a quick couple things. We've had a few questions come in on this, and then we'll go back to some more questions. For those who have to leave at 1 o'clock, thank you so much for joining us today. On Friday, we'll be sending an email that has links to a number of things people have been asking about: a recording of today's webinar, our membership marketing benchmarking report, so you can download it if you haven't yet, a link to Tony's calendar so you can make an appointment with him for a free 30-minute consult to discuss how to apply the findings of the report and the insights we heard about today to your association. Also, upon request, we'll be happy to share the PDF of today's presentation. We hope to see you at one of our upcoming MGI webinars. The next one will be on November 18th. Thank you very much. And for those leaving, thanks again for coming, and let's keep going with the questions.
Thanks so much. And thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. I love this content, and I hope you found it helpful today. And so, yeah, let's continue. For those who have outstanding questions, I'm happy to stay on for a little bit longer and try to speak to them.
Okay, here's one, Tony, about investment. You've made a number of very interesting and helpful suggestions about budget, but tying that to the discussion on innovation, what kind of investments are associations making in innovation, like budget, percentage of budget? Any guidelines there?
Yeah, I think, here's the advice I give on that. And it's interesting. I read an article in Harvard Business Review a while back, and it said, organizations are better off making lots of little bets and lots of little investments to see where the traction is than just picking one thing and spending gobs of money on it and hoping that works. So I'm a big believer in trying lots of things, and it doesn't take a huge amount of investment, and seeing what sticks and seeing what response is out there. And sometimes it can be as simple as sending out an email to members and say, hey, we have this opportunity. Please sign up for this webinar, or please sign up for this report. So that would be my thought on that. I don't know if we need a grand imperial strategy on one thing. Another thing that I've seen really effective is one organization we work with. In everyone's performance review, they have an innovation goal. So they've got to come up with something, some kind of a goal, some way that they can think of improving things. And again, that's a plan, that's a strategy. It's saying everyone has to have an innovation goal, but it gets you a lot of ideas flowing and a lot of opportunities flowing.
Okay, next question. This has to do with, again, a couple of things you talked about, credit card payment and engagement. For those members that have an automatic credit card renewal, what kind of mapping there might be? Have you looked at their level of engagement with the association? While their retention is great, one question is, does membership fade into the background?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think that I don't know if you're going to see a huge difference in levels of engagement between someone who's billed monthly or annually automatically and those that pay a renewal notice. But I think you can make the case, I don't have any data on it, but I think you can make the case that there might be more passivity in those people who have that automatic annual credit card because they don't have to make that proactive decision every year. So I don't have any data on it though, so I really can't speak definitively on that.
Okay, two questions back to value proposition. I feel like we have a compelling value proposition, but I'm seeing a decline in membership. Might you attribute this to the panic lapsers? From my own survey data, I do see those who lapse saying it's not in their budget.
Yeah, congratulations on having a strong value proposition, because even if you are having panic lapsers and you're having people who have budgetary issues, at some point those will be resolved. So they're not leaving you because you're not providing value to them. They're leaving because of budgetary issues, which you don't fully control. I think that I would still go back to them, and you might want to try with a discount and go back and say, we understand our profession, our industry are having financial challenges, and we want to support you and continue your membership and would like you to come back at a discount. I think my hope is, and we all hope, that some of these financial difficulties next year will end as we find relief from the pandemic, and finances will improve. So those people, again, should be invited to come back.
For a value proposition, certainly very important. If you have a strong value proposition, to convey it in ways that people are going to notice it, et cetera. One of the attendees would like to know good ways to sharing the value proposition. Statement, list, different ways of talking to people.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that we've seen really effective is taking all your products and services and just laying them out or looking at them all, assigning what the benefit is to each of those products and services, and then thinking through what change, value, help that is going to be to members, and really thinking through what those are. Then messaging sort of arises out of that as you laid out those benefits, and as you've really thought through, here's how this is really helping members. Messaging really percolates to the surface, and then translating that messaging into recruitment, into your engagement efforts, into your renewal efforts happens. But touching, feeling, understanding, those benefits and the specific value they bring to specific people, I think is where that messaging will come from.
Just scrolling through there, I'm trying to pull out maybe another one or two.
Yeah, we can do one or two more.
Okay. A couple of questions about membership models and what kind of associations are seeing success going one direction or another. Trade organizations, for instance, inviting individuals to be members and vice versa.
Great question. That's a great question. Typically, I recommend individual membership organizations consider moving to a combination membership. It can be very, very challenging for a trade association with company members to offer an individual membership because you may see a lot of downgrades. Individual memberships are never going to be as high a level of dues as that company membership. So I find it much more of a challenge and risky for a trade group to move to add individual. Now, there might be specific segments like students, for instance, or academic folks in academics or government that may lend itself to allowing you to have individual memberships for them. But I'd be very cautious of doing that if I was a trade association. So one more question, Alyssa, and then we're happy to interact with folks, as you mentioned, independently from this, if there's some things people really need help with.
Yes, best practices for recommendations for onboarding.
Great question. Assuming we're through the pandemic, I'm a big believer in having some mailed piece go to a new member, something tangible that they can touch, hold, look at, that really helps them understand and visualize what they're getting for their membership. So if you have a home address, that certainly works perfectly fine. If you only have a work address, that may be a challenge. But I do think we see a diminishment in people using new member kits, and I'm not looking for the big envelope stuffed with 100 different pieces of paper. It's a simple brochure that helps people scan and understand what they're getting and drives them to the website for more information. So that's one thing. In some cases, I've heard welcome calls can be very effective in welcoming people to the membership, answering questions, explaining the resources. And then what we've done for a lot of clients is we have done online digital ads that highlight each month for both new members, but for existing members, a different benefit that's a free benefit. So it's January, we may highlight the Career Center. It's February, we may highlight the upcoming webinar schedule that's of free interactions, free webinars. The next month, we might highlight the different publications that you are part of your membership that you can get. And so that's what we call a custom audience. You take that membership file, you match it up against a platform, and you have a series of digital ads. So if people aren't opening your email, they can't avoid seeing that if they're online. They're going to see those digital ads and have an opportunity to click right to the spot on your website that provides that resource or that service. So to onboard people, I would certainly try to have some kind of piece of mail. Even more important, I'd have that ongoing monthly communication series. So each month, a different benefit is highlighted to the membership that they can click on, access, and see the value that you're bringing to them. With that, I guess I want to say thank you so much for all of you that have attended today. I'm more than happy for you to reach out and to provide additional information. And I want to just say thank you to everyone who's participated in our research. You know, the only way this works is people fill out the survey. That's the only way we gather that information. It's all anonymous. I don't look at your organization or some other organization. It's all anonymous, but it's really, really helpful for us to get broad-based participation in this research. And we really appreciate your participation because you make this happen. So thank you so much for joining us today. Alyssa, thank you for your help in moderating today. And thank you all for the time today. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.